Is this your guys' first protest, or are you guys done this many?
No.
What's other issues that pulled you out to the streets?
We've been protesting longer than you've been on the planet.
What were some of the first protests? Because Donald Trump hadn't been around forever. What were the first protests you guys got out on the streets for?
1969.
What was the issue at hand?
What do you think?
1969, and you have to ask that question.
Well, I'm asking for the camera. What?
You have to ask what was happening in this country in '69, and you purport to be a journalist of some sort.
Were you protesting the moon
Do
landing?
you know your history?
I do know my history.
Then what was happening in 1969 that had people in the streets?
There were a lot of
What was
things.
happening in 1969?
Major thing.
What was it?
Back when your Lord and Savior had bone spurs, what was happening in 1969?
Well, how about you tell us?
You know the difference between Iran and Vietnam?
What is
Trump
that?
had a plan to get out of Vietnam.
Trump had a plan to get out of. Oh, that's witty. That's clever. That's clever.
That's what he says.
So you guys were protesting the Vietnam War in 1969. You or just you?
Obama started the Vietnam
Okay, and you were anti-war, right?
Look, he's an idiot who's just trying to hype people up.
Well, I'm not hyping anybody up. I'm just asking questions.
I've been at the abortion clinic for years. I have dealt with these assholes for a long time.
I'll give you the mic.
Questions that you know the answers to try to get people educated. And that's the only reason you're doing it. Because that's what Charlie Kirk's modus operandi was.
Oh, that's all it was, yeah.
And he would always preface some of these silly questions with, I'm just asking questions.
Well, shouldn't
that's
that be
not what
allowed?
you're doing. When you ask provocative questions, questions that you know will bring out the ire in people who are thoughtful, that's not
Like,
just
what were you
answering
protesting in
questions.
1969? Is that what brings the ire?
That's trying to dig in and make people act somewhat irrational.
These people were not among the most charitable people I spoke to at the protest, as you can clearly see. I wonder what they would think if they were to see themselves recorded. Would they double down on it, or would they maybe think twice about their tone, choice of words, and needless aggression? I really have no idea. Unfortunately, I do have an idea, actually, based on the fact that I've seen these people, or people like them, after recording them many times, and they're almost never introspective. They always rage in the comments when they see them and double down. It's very unfortunate that this is what has become broadly of the older generation in this country. The boomers, who were brought up in the 60s, gave us the sexual revolution. They gave us the feminist movement. They gave us the civil rights movement and caused a lot of destruction with it. They handed us the Hart-Celler Act, which brought a bunch of illegal immigrants to our country. And as you can see, after destroying our economy, they're not content with that. On the way out, these people who are a little bit advanced in age, who should be enjoying or at least approaching retirement, they should be enjoying their children and their grandchildren. They should be passing down their legacy, their wisdom, and their culture to the next generation. And instead, what are they doing on a Saturday afternoon? They're marching in the streets in a public park, debasing themselves by being crass, uncivilized, and rude to someone who's just there to have a conversation with them and is by no means trying to escalate or throw fuel on the fire, just talking and asking questions and listening to what they have to say. And they're lashing out. And it's deeply tragic. And this is what becomes of these people, by the way. You can't separate the two. It's not a coincidence that the same people who have for all their lives railed against God's design, they hated traditional patriarchy. They hated the traditional moorings of the church when it comes to morality. They hated sexual morality. They hated that tradition. They're pushing against it constantly. And what are they doing now? In this case, these particular people were very passionate about the abortion issue. In fact, the ladies told me that they used to be abortion clinic escorts. So basically, they're murder accomplices in their free time. When you are deluded, it corrupts your soul and it turns you into a sour, nasty, evil person. Evil is not alienated from your outside behavior. From the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. And so these people's hearts are corrupt. They hate God's design. They hate what's normal and good and true and beautiful. And so what comes out on the outside? Anger, crassness, aggression, hatred. They just come across as really unstable people. And it's actually kind of sad, because if these people had chosen the right path, they may very well be enjoying their Saturday afternoons, surrounded by a legacy of children, grandchildren, perhaps even great-grandchildren, and passing on their wisdom that should have come with their gray hair down to the next generation. And yet instead they're continuing the same legacy they've had from the very beginning, by their own admission, since before I was on this earth, protesting, raging against God's design for families, sexuality, children, and our culture more broadly. The condition of the world today in our country makes a lot of sense when you realize that these are the people. This is the generation that's been at the helm for so long. We need to absolutely take this back now, push these people out and replace them with people who think like we do. Young, bright, fresh, with traditional Christian morality that is now coming back after decades of decline. Finally, in Gen Z, we are seeing a resurgence. People are starting to go to church more now than they used to, instead of less, as the boomers presided over.